Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be doing a deep dive today, and it's something that's been making a lot of noise in the news lately: gold IRAs.
Oh, yeah.
We found this great article called "Gold IRA versus Traditional IRA," which is more suitable for wealthy investors. Now, yeah, looking at that title, it seems like it's really targeted towards the wealthy investors out there.
Right.
But we're going to kind of unpack this and see if the core concepts,
Yeah.
maybe this is something that, you know, everyone should be considering, as part of their retirement planning.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. A lot of people, when they hear gold IRA, they think, oh, that's not for me. I'm not, a millionaire or whatever.
Right.
But the thing is like a lot of these principles behind it can apply to, anybody who is looking to diversify their retirement portfolio.
Absolutely. And, speaking of diversification, this article really hits home on, how vulnerable traditional IRAs can be to, market fluctuations. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all seen how crazy the stock market can be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And if that's, where all your eggs are in that basket,
Uh,
that could be a little scary.
it's like you're building your retirement, on a foundation of sand.
Right.
And, it might be okay for a while, but, a big enough storm comes along, it's
Yeah.
all gonna, get washed away.
Right.
So, a gold IRA can kind of act as that bedrock, a little bit more stability,
Right.
less tremors when the market shakes.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So for listeners out there who maybe aren't familiar, can you give us just like the,
Yeah.
Gold IRA 101, like what exactly is it?
Yeah. So a gold IRA is essentially, it's a retirement account that allows you to hold physical gold, silver, platinum, palladium
Okay.
instead of, traditional assets like stocks and bonds.
Interesting.
So think of it as, owning a piece of something tangible, something that has intrinsic value that has, endured for centuries.
Okay, so like you're owning a piece of history, but also it could potentially grow.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's interesting. So you're physically holding these precious metals.
exactly. Yeah.
And from a tax perspective, how does it compare to like a traditional IRA?
Pretty much the same.
Okay.
Tax advantages, you're going to make tax-deferred contributions,
Right.
and then you'll get taxed when you withdraw it in retirement.
Gotcha. Okay, so the main difference is
The asset.
the asset.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. So this article talks a lot about, gold's allure, especially in times of economic uncertainty, and we've all heard about gold being this hedge against inflation.
Right.
But what does that really mean?
Well, I mean, inflation is essentially, the decrease in the purchasing power of money.
Okay.
So, as prices go up, your dollar buys you less and less. And
Right.
historically, gold has done pretty well during inflationary periods
Okay.
as a way to, kind of buffer against that erosion of purchasing power.
So in a way, it's almost like a financial insurance policy.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
You're not necessarily looking to make, massive gains,
Right.
but you're looking to protect what you have
Maintain that purchasing
from
power.
losing value.
Okay. Yeah. And actually, there's a really interesting anecdote in this article about a retired entrepreneur named John.
Okay.
And, he had a gold IRA and he saw it hold steady even when the, stock market took a major downturn.
Right.
And that just illustrates how, in those turbulent times, it can give you that peace of mind.
It's like that anchor,
Exactly.
holding you steady.
Keep you from, drifting too far.
Now, let's be real, though. There are some, misconceptions about gold IRAs floating around out there.
Sure.
Some people think they're too risky.
Mm,
Some people think they're too expensive.
yeah.
What's the reality?
Well, those are good points and they should be addressed, right up front.
Yeah.
The idea that, gold is inherently risky, I think is a little bit misleading.
Okay.
Yes, gold prices can fluctuate, but over the long term, it's generally held its value pretty well.
Okay.
In fact, some would argue that gold is less risky than certain stocks,
Right.
especially in times of, economic uncertainty.
So it's all relative.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Okay.
And as far as the cost goes, yes, gold IRAs typically have higher fees than traditional IRAs.
Okay.
You're going to have storage fees, insurance, and other, administrative costs. So, you have to weigh those costs against the potential benefits.
Right. It's like anything else, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting what you're paying for?
Exactly. And, maybe those higher fees are worth it
Right.
if it gives you that peace of mind and that, that security.
It's like choosing between a basic economy car and a fully loaded luxury SUV.
Sure.
You're paying more for the SUV,
Uh-huh.
but you're getting those extra safety features.
Exactly.
That peace of mind.
And at the end of the day, it is, your wealth.
Right.
It's your retirement.
Yeah.
You wouldn't make any major financial decision without doing your research.
Of course not.
So, same principle applies here.
And that actually leads us to, this big point in the article about choosing the right provider.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like finding a surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
You want someone with experience, a proven track record.
Yeah, you got to trust them.
And who you can trust.
Yeah, big time.
So selecting a reputable gold IRA provider is, paramount.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what are some things people should look for when they're, vetting these providers?
Well, I think a good place to start is, their reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like checking reviews online before you, go to a new restaurant or
Right.
hire a contractor.
Yeah.
You want to see what other people's experiences have been.
For sure.
So look for providers with a long history of satisfied customers, positive ratings in the industry,
Right.
and a strong, financial standing themselves.
So don't just pick a name out of a hat.
No.
Do your research.
Do your research.
See what their track record looks like.
Absolutely. And speaking of doing research, fees are another biggie.
Oh.
We already talked about how, gold IRAs tend to have higher fees
Right.
than traditional IRAs, but, the key here is transparency.
Okay.
You want a provider that's going to be upfront
Right.
about all the costs involved, so you're not hit with any surprises down the road.
Yeah, nobody likes hidden fees, It's like getting hit with that, baggage fee at the airport after you thought you got a deal on the flight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So make sure you understand all the fees involved.
Mm-hmm.
Storage fees, transaction fees, any annual maintenance fees.
All right.
Don't be afraid to ask questions and compare fees across different providers.
Shop around.
Exactly. Shop around, make sure you're getting a fair deal.
Right. Just like anything else.
Yep.
Now, we've touched on the importance of secure storage,
Mm-hmm.
Briefly.
Right.
Can you just store the gold yourself?
That's a good question. And that's where the IRS gets a little bit, particular.
Okay.
They have specific rules for gold IRAs, and one of those rules is that the gold has to be stored in an approved depository.
Oh.
So no stashing gold bars under your mattress.
Okay, so no, home vault or anything like that.
No, you need a reputable custodian to handle the storage and administration.
Okay, so let's talk custodians. What exactly do they do?
So think of a custodian as kind of the guardian of your gold IRA.
Okay.
So they're responsible for holding your precious metals.
Okay.
They're going to make sure they're securely stored in that IRS-approved depository,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll handle all the administrative aspects of your account.
So they're like the vault keepers, making sure everything's safe and sound.
Exactly, yeah. And just like choosing a provider, you want a custodian with a solid track record.
Right.
Extensive experience handling precious metals and a reputation for reliability.
So again, do your research.
Exactly. It's like choosing a bank, You want one that's been around, has a good reputation.
Who trust them with your money.
You trust them with your money.
Okay, so reputation fees, custodianship.
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of the big three things to keep in mind when you're choosing a provider.
Yeah, and I think, to add to that list, we need to talk about storage.
Okay.
We're talking about physical assets here, gold bars, coins, other precious metals, and you need to make sure that they're stored securely.
Of course.
So, protect them from theft, damage, even natural disasters.
Yeah, you wouldn't leave a pile of cash just lying around.
Right, exactly. So when you're choosing a provider, make sure they're partnering with reputable depositories.
Okay.
These are facilities that are specifically designed to safeguard precious metals,
Mm-hmm.
Multiple layers of security vaults,
Yeah.
surveillance systems, insurance.
So it's like Fort Knox for your gold?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And you want to make sure that, the depository is geographically diverse, meaning it's not located in an area that's prone to natural disasters or political instability.
So location matters.
Location matters.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm assuming it's not as easy as just, buying gold online or something.
Yeah, it's a little more involved than that.
How do you actually go about acquiring the gold for your IRA?
So the most common way is through a direct purchase.
Okay.
And this involves working with your gold IRA provider to select the specific, gold products that you want to invest in.
Okay.
So you can choose from a variety of options, gold bars, gold coins, gold bullion.
So you're curating your own collection
In a sense.
within your IRA.
Exactly.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And each, gold product is going to have different weights, purities, and premiums.
Okay.
So it's important to do your research
Okay.
and choose what aligns with, your investment goals.
So it's like building a custom-made jewelry piece or something.
Yeah. It like that.
You're choosing the metal, the design, all the different elements to make it your own.
Exactly. And, you mentioned premiums.
Yeah. What exactly are those?
So a premium in simple terms is the additional cost you pay for a gold product
Okay.
on top of its melt value,
Okay.
which is basically the value of the pure gold content.
Gotcha.
So it's like paying extra for craftsmanship or rarity,
Okay. Like a rare coin or something.
Exactly. A rare gold coin might have a much higher premium than a standard gold bar.
Okay. So it's not just about the weight of the gold.
Mm-hmm.
There's other factors that influence the value.
Absolutely. And that's why it's crucial to work with, a knowledgeable provider or advisor
Okay.
who can guide you through those different options, explain the nuances of premiums,
Right.
and help you choose gold products that align with your strategy and your risk tolerance.
Okay. So it's like having a personal shopper for gold.
Yeah, I like that.
They take care, you make sure you're getting the right thing.
Yeah.
Now, are there any other ways to get gold into a gold IRA besides like a direct purchase?
Yeah, so another common method is a rollover or transfer
Okay.
from an existing IRA or 401k.
Okay.
So this involves moving funds from a traditional retirement account into a gold IRA.
So you're kind of redirecting those funds.
Yeah, redirecting them.
Instead of stocks and bonds, it's going into gold.
Exactly. And this can be a good option to diversify your portfolio
Right.
without incurring any tax penalties.
That's good.
So it's a popular choice for those who already have retirement savings and, maybe want to allocate a portion to gold.
Okay, great. And then is there any other way besides, direct purchase and a rollover?
Yeah, there's one more. It's less common,
Okay.
but it's direct contribution.
Okay.
So similar to contributing to a traditional IRA, but instead of putting money into stocks or bonds, you're directly putting it into those gold holdings over time.
Okay, so it's a more gradual approach
Exactly.
to building up your gold allocation.
Right. And just like traditional IRAs, there are contribution limits for gold IRAs as well.
Ah, those pesky limits. Always got to remember those.
Always got to keep those in mind.
So are there any limits on the types of gold that you can hold in a gold IRA?
Yes, the IRS is very specific about the types of gold that qualify.
Okay.
It has to meet certain fineness standards,
Okay.
meaning it has to have a certain purity level.
Okay, so no fool's gold.
No fool's gold.
What are those fineness standards?
So the gold needs to be at least 99.5% pure,
Okay,
often referred to as 24-karat gold.
gotcha.
This ensures that you're investing in high-quality investment-grade gold that's, recognized and traded on major exchanges.
Okay, so it's got to be, pure and investment grade, essentially.
Exactly.
Now, what about the forms? Like, we talked about bars and coins and bullion.
Right.
Is there any, restrictions on those?
So the IRS doesn't explicitly prohibit any specific forms of gold,
Okay.
but they do have guidelines
Okay.
on what constitutes an acceptable investment. So, for example, gold bars have to meet certain weight and purity requirements.
Okay.
And gold coins have to be produced by, a recognized government mint.
So there are some standards in place.
There are some standards.
Okay, so it's not just buying, any gold off the street. It's got to make sure it meets, certain criteria.
And this is where working with, a knowledgeable provider is crucial.
Right.
They're going to ensure that the gold you choose meets all those IRS requirements
Sure.
and guide you through that selection process.
So like a gold concierge.
Exactly. Yeah. They're going to handle the details and make sure everything is by the book.
Okay. Can you have like a mix of, can you have bars and coins?
Absolutely.
And other precious metals?
Yeah. Diversification is, a key principle of investing.
Right.
And that applies to gold IRAs as well.
Okay.
So, instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak,
Right.
you can diversify within your gold IRA by holding a mix of different gold products. So, gold bars, gold coins, and even other precious metals like silver, platinum, palladium.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's like the diversification within the diversification.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this approach can help you mitigate the impact of, fluctuations in the price of any single metal.
Okay. Very cool. So, we've talked a lot about, potential benefits.
Yeah.
But, got to be realistic here. What are some of the downsides?
Mm-hmm.
Any risks or drawbacks people should be aware of?
Sure. Well, no investment is without risks,
Right.
and gold IRAs are no exception.
Sure.
I think one thing to consider is that gold itself doesn't generate any income,
Okay.
unlike, stocks that might pay dividends or bonds that pay interest.
So it's not a cash flowing asset.
Right.
It's more about preserving capital and hedging against risk.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another potential drawback, gold prices can be volatile,
Right.
especially in the short term. So, it's not a guaranteed path to riches. It's about riding out those fluctuations and focusing on the long-term potential.
Okay. So, you're not going to get rich quick
Right.
with gold.
It's a long-term play.
Okay.
Um, Another thing to keep in mind is, storage and insurance costs. We
Right.
talked about, how important it is to have secure storage,
Right.
but those services come at a price.
Okay. So,
Yep.
those fees could eat into your returns if you're not careful.
Exactly. And then, finally, withdrawing funds from a gold IRA before retirement age
Oh, yeah.
can result in some hefty tax penalties.
So it's not a liquid asset
Right.
that you can access.
It's for the long haul.
Easily, it's meant for retirement planning.
Exactly. So while gold IRAs can be, a valuable addition to a retirement portfolio,
Right.
you got to weigh the potential benefits against the risks and consider all those factors
Absolutely.
before making a decision.
It's like any major financial decision.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do your research, understand the pros and cons.
Excellent.
Talk to professionals.
Yeah.
Make sure it aligns with your goals.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, as we've talked about all this,
Yeah.
one thing that keeps popping in my mind is,
Yeah.
if gold is seen as, this hedge against inflation, especially in times of economic uncertainty,
Yeah.
how does it actually perform in different economic environments?
Ooh.
Because economies go through cycles.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
We have times of, boom and bust. So I'm curious to, dig deeper into that.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic question, and that's something we'll have to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Perfect.
We'll kind of put gold under the microscope
Okay.
and see how it reacts to those different pressures.
I love that.
All
Let's do it.
right.
I'm excited for this.
All right, let's go.
All right, we'll be back.
Welcome back. Glad to be here. So, we kind of left off talking about, gold's performance in different economic climates.
Right.
And it is a fascinating thing to look at, kind of putting gold under the microscope and seeing how it reacts.
Right, exactly.
To these different pressures.
So let's start with, something that I think is on a lot of people's minds right now, which is high inflation.
Yeah.
It seems like, prices on everything are going up.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
And, people are looking for ways to protect their savings.
Mm-hmm.
So does gold really hold up as that hedge against inflation?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think to answer that, we have to look back and see how gold has performed during, past periods of inflation.
So let's take a trip down memory lane.
Okay.
What are some, historical examples that can maybe shed some light on this?
Well, I think one of the most, striking examples is the 1970s.
Okay.
That period of stagflation in the U.S.
Yeah.
It was a really challenging time. High inflation combined with slow economic growth.
Right.
Traditional investments really struggled during that period.
Mhm.
But gold, on the other hand,
Yeah.
it thrived. Its price increased significantly
Wow.
as investors, sought refuge from the eroding value of the dollar.
So it really did kind of live up to that, safe haven reputation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It weathered the storm pretty well.
it did. And that's, why a lot of people, I think, are turning to it now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
with these concerns about inflation rising again.
It's like that saying, what's old is new again.
Right.
These economic patterns tend to repeat themselves.
Yeah.
And gold seems to have that kind of enduring quality that transcends those cycles.
Right. And it's interesting because, we've been talking about these, kind of the down times, with inflation.
Right.
But what about, times of economic prosperity?
Yeah.
When things are going well, businesses are booming,
Mm-hmm.
jobs are plentiful, consumer confidence is high.
Sure.
What happens to gold then?
Mm.
Does it just, sit there gathering dust?
Yeah. Well, it might not experience, those same kind of dramatic price surges as it does during, times of crisis or uncertainty.
Okay.
But it can still play a valuable role, I think, in a well-diversified portfolio,
Okay.
even when the economy is, humming along.
So it's like a good friend,
Yeah.
They're there for you, rain or shine.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
During economic expansions, other asset classes like stocks,
Right.
real estate tend to perform really well.
Yeah.
But, that also means they can become a little bit more volatile,
Okay.
subject to sudden price swings.
So your portfolios may be a little bit, you know, top heavy at
Right.
that point.
Yeah, and that's where gold can come in.
Okay.
It acts as a counterbalance, kind of smooths out those bumps in the road.
So like shock absorbers on your car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes for a more comfortable ride.
Even when you hit those potholes.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, one thing I've heard a lot about is, the relationship between gold and interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that they have an inverse relationship.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, there is some validity to that. Generally when interest rates rise, the price of gold tends to fall.
Okay.
And conversely, when interest rates fall, gold prices often go up.
So it's like a seesaw.
Yeah.
One goes up, the other goes down.
Exactly, yeah. A good visualization.
I try.
You got it.
Then why does that happen?
Well, when interest rates are high,
Okay.
investors are more inclined to put their money in, interest-bearing assets like bonds,
Okay.
savings accounts,
Makes sense.
because they can earn a decent return without taking on a lot of risk.
Yeah, got to follow that yield.
Exactly. But when interest rates are low, those traditional investments become less appealing.
Right.
And investors might start looking at gold
Right.
as an alternative.
Okay.
They're searching for yield in a low interest rate environment.
Huh.
And gold offers, the potential for price appreciation even when interest rates are stagnant.
Okay. So it's kind of filling that gap.
Yeah, it can fill that gap. But it's important to remember that, this relationship between gold and interest rates isn't always perfect or predictable.
Right.
There are other factors at play. Geopolitical events, currency fluctuations, even investor sentiment can influence gold prices.
So it's not a, simple equation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different variables
Lots of variables.
that can make it a little bit unpredictable at times.
Absolutely. And that's part of what makes it so fascinating to follow.
Right.
Now, before we move on to, some of the specifics of gold IRAs, I think it's important to highlight, a critical point from the article.
Okay. What's that?
It emphasizes that a gold IRA should really be viewed as part of a broader retirement strategy,
Okay.
not as a standalone solution.
Right.
It's not a replacement for, traditional retirement accounts, but rather a complementary piece of the puzzle.
So it's like adding a spice to a dish,
Yeah.
That's not the whole meal.
Exactly. You wouldn't, put all your eggs in one basket. And the same principle applies to, your retirement portfolio.
Right. Diversification is key.
Absolutely. Having a mix of different asset classes,
Mm-hmm.
each with their own risk and return profile.
So how do you determine the right mix, for your portfolio? Is there a magic formula?
Well, unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
The ideal asset allocation really depends on your individual circumstances, your risk tolerance, your time horizon, and your goals.
So it's not about just, following some generic template.
Right.
It's really about creating that personalized roadmap
Absolutely.
for your retirement.
And that's where, seeking guidance from a qualified financial advisor can be really valuable.
Okay.
They can help you, assess your overall financial situation, understand your risk profile, and develop a plan that, meets your specific needs.
Yeah, so it's like having a financial trainer who
Yeah.
can kind of help you create that, workout plan.
Yeah. I like that.
That's tailored to your needs.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into, the nuts and bolts
Okay.
of actually setting up a gold IRA.
Yeah.
What are the steps involved?
Well, the first step is choosing a reputable provider,
Right.
which we already talked about, at length.
Yep.
Once you've selected a provider, you're going to need to open a self-directed IRA account.
Okay.
This gives you more control over your investment choices.
So it's like having a checking account,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of just holding cash, you can actually invest
You got it.
in a wider range of assets,
Yeah, much wider range,
including gold.
including gold, exactly.
Okay.
Next, you're going to need to fund your account.
Okay.
And this can be done through a direct contribution, a rollover from an existing IRA or 401k, or even a transfer from another gold IRA.
Okay, so there's flexibility there
Yeah, there's definitely some options.
in terms of how you get the money in.
Absolutely. And once your account is funded, you'll work with your provider to select, the specific gold products you want to invest in.
Okay.
This is where you'll, choose the type of gold, the format, the specific products that align with your strategy.
So again, it's like, going to that high-end boutique,
Exactly.
curating your collection.
Choosing those perfect pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. And then finally, once you've chosen your gold,
Mm-hmm.
Your provider will handle, all the purchases, storage, the administration.
Yeah, they'll take care of all the heavy lifting, so to speak.
Makes it easy.
Yeah, it definitely simplifies the process.
Now, is there anything else that we should be thinking about when it comes to, gold IRAs?
I think there's one more important aspect that we need to touch on
Okay.
before we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay, lay it on me.
It's the importance of, ongoing monitoring and management.
Okay.
Just like any investment, a gold IRA requires a little bit of attention and oversight
Okay.
to make sure it's performing as expected.
Right.
And that it still aligns with your goals.
So it's not just set it and forget it.
It's not a set it and forget it type of investment. No.
What kind of adjustments might you need to make, over time?
Well, you might decide to rebalance your portfolio, if the price of gold fluctuates significantly.
Okay.
You might consider adding other precious metals to further diversify your holdings.
Okay.
It's like tending a garden.
Yeah.
You got to prune the plants, add fertilizer, make sure they're getting enough sunlight.
Got to keep it healthy?
You got to keep it healthy, exactly. And, just like a gardener might seek advice, from an experienced horticulturalist.
Right.
Gold IRA investors can benefit from, working with a knowledgeable advisor
Okay.
who can guide them on, portfolio management, rebalancing strategies, other aspects of, maintaining a healthy gold IRA.
So you've got that financial coach in your corner
Yeah, you got your coach,
helping you stay on track.
keeping you on the right path.
All right. So as we're, kind of wrapping up this section, one question that comes to mind,
Okay, I'm listening.
we're talking about gold being this hedge against uncertainty.
Right.
And, let's face it, the world seems to be getting more and more unpredictable these days.
It does, doesn't it?
So what role might a gold IRA play in navigating those financial challenges,
Yeah.
opportunities that are out there?
That's a really thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
And it's one that we'll dig into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay. I'm excited to unpack that.
We'll kind of explore those potential, challenges and opportunities that lie ahead
I like it.
and see how gold might fit into that picture.
It's like we're financial archaeologists
Yeah.
uncovering, the mysteries of gold.
Let's go on that dig.
All right, let's do it. Okay, we are back for the final part of our Gold IRA deep dive. And, we left off with this really interesting question about, what role might a gold IRA play in this kind of increasingly unpredictable financial world that we live in?
Yeah, that's a big one.
It is a big one, and there's no, easy answers.
No.
But to kind of wrap our heads around this,
Yeah.
I think we need to kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
What are some of those forces that are shaping the global economy right now?
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of those, potential challenges and opportunities
Yeah.
that might be out there?
Well, one trend that's been, impossible to ignore is the rise of geopolitical instability.
Right.
I mean, we're seeing conflicts erupt, around the world, trade tensions, simmering between major powers,
Right.
and just a general sense of unease about the future of global cooperation.
Yeah, it feels like things are getting a little bit more, fractured.
Yeah.
Every country for themselves.
Yeah, kind of a, every man for himself mentality.
And that's going to, make the markets a little bit nervous.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Investors get nervous. They start looking for those safe havens.
Right. Those assets that can kind of hold their value
Yeah.
during, turbulent times.
Exactly. And historically, gold has been one of those go-to safe havens.
Yeah.
It has that unique quality of being seen as a store of value, almost like a universal currency
Right.
that transcends borders and political systems.
Interesting.
So when confidence in, traditional financial systems starts to waver,
Yeah.
people often turn to gold as a way to preserve their wealth.
It's like having that backup generator,
Yeah,
when the power goes out.
I like that.
It might not be as, fancy or high tech as the main system,
Right.
but it provides that stability when you need it.
It keeps the lights on.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got geopolitical instability.
Mhm.
What else is kind of, adding to this sense of uncertainty?
Well, another factor is, the rising level of global debt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, governments around the world have been borrowing heavily, especially, in the wake of the pandemic.
Right.
And that's created this mass debt burden that could have, long-term consequences.
Yeah, it's like, maxing out all your credit cards and hoping that you can just make those minimum payments.
Yeah. Hoping you can, keep your head above water.
Right. It's not a sustainable strategy.
Not in the long run, no.
And this has got to, raise concerns about inflation down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If governments can't manage that debt effectively,
Mhm.
they might resort to printing more money,
Right.
which devalues currencies and erodes purchasing power.
And that's where gold could potentially, come in again as
Exactly.
that hedge against inflation.
Historically, we've seen this play out time and time again.
Right.
During those periods of high inflation, the purchasing power of paper currencies tends to decline,
Right.
but gold, often holds its value or even increases in price.